Holmberg 14?
Nick, N-I-C-K. Nick Holmberg.
Nick, with your social media handle.
Yep, and then 11.
Oh, Nick Holmberg 11.
Nick Holmberg,
okay.
sorry, yeah.
Why did I think it was 14? Oh, it's B. Leslie 14. That's Bryce's social media. Look.
Getting them mixed up, my friend. Getting mixed up.
Come on.
You know, it's funny you say that because they're very clearly so similar. I mean, Bryce, a recent college graduate living on the East Coast, and Nick, a father to 2 children living on the West Coast. I mean, you know, obviously very similar people. Easy to see how someone would get those mixed up.
All right, I'm doing my tweet. That's why you hear me typing. Announce to the world that we're live.
I thought you said you already did that.
No. I knew I needed to do it. And I'm not going to say that we're live when we're not live. I literally say we're live.
Not only are we live, we've been live for 1 minute and 11 seconds, according to the timer.
Oh, well, you see, the live stream only says 1 minute. So that's where you're wrong.
Well, I mean...
Although...
Yeah.
So, like, we've been live for a minute.
Well, you might have been live for a minute. I've been around for like over 30 years.
But on what we've been doing, we're actually like 1:30. But YouTube started like a couple seconds later because of the latency thing. So how long have we been live?
I just told you I've been live for over 30 years. You might have been born yesterday, but I had to tell this joke twice, Nick.
I didn't catch it. I was...
Live! It says live!
Yeah.
You do whatever you want.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, we do have our Colorado correspondent Nick here with us today.
Wow, you're just not even gonna have a normal intro? You're just gonna spoil the surprise for everyone listening at home?
Oh yeah, my bad.
Wow, Gavin, it's been 7 days and it's like you already forgot how a podcast works. This tells me that Gavin doesn't listen to our own podcast.
Please let me apologize.
During the week.
I will mute myself and get out of the way of your hosting abilities.
You'll know when it's time to talk, Gavin. I'll let you know. I'll introduce you.
Gotcha. Let's do it then. My bad.
Okay, that's fine. All right, Gavin. Am I allowed? Can I do my job now?
I'll allow it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another week of the MLS Now podcast. We have yet another match day in the books from the season. I don't know really what match day it is anymore. I think it's match day 7, but don't quote me on that. I'm a very amateur podcaster here. We pride ourselves on fact-based journalism only when it suits us, and right now it doesn't suit me. So might be match day 7. Who knows? I'm your host, Russell. You can find me on social media at Mr. Danger Russ. And of course, here to not fact check me at all is Gavin. You can find him on social media at LionsBlog1. Gavin, hello. Quick drink check. What you got today?
I got the same thing. I'm still trying to get rid of it. Cold snap. I don't really drink outside of podcasting.
Well, you know what, Gavin? It can be said that you're never drinking alone, which drinking alone would be a sign that, maybe you're too stressed in life. So hey, that just tells me you got a good work-life balance. Joining us is also a man with an excellent work-life balance, balancing some family time with being on the podcast with us. It's our Colorado correspondent. Man, look at me. I can't even have a word-life balance. Colorado correspondent Nick Holmberg. You can find him on social media at Nick Holmberg 11. Nick, hello. So happy to have you on.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
It's going well. I would ask you as well if you have a drink check, but considering you still have real life responsibilities, you may not have a drink check that you can do.
Yeah, the drink check is kind of lame. It's just water. But for the viewers at home, what is that?
That looks like a bus with a QR code on it. And I see the word Tahoe.
Oh, it's a Colorado. That's a Colorado Rapids bus.
Yeah. There you go. No. Yeah, so I'm drinking water. Yeah.
Right. Some would say that Nick has the most adult-oriented drink out of all of us, in that true adults know water's where it's at. I'm over here, of course, with a needlessly large carafe of basically an upscaled green tea shot that I turned into kind of like a frozen margarita. For those of you keeping track
You
at
would.
home, green tea shot is it's Irish whiskey mixed with some peach schnapps. You blend that with some sweet and sour mix, shake it with ice, strain, and then top with like a citrusy or lemon limey soda of your choice. I immediately ignored that because I'm trying to use up more alcohol, not less. And I made a margarita-esque thing out of it. So it's still all the same ingredients, but I made it frozen instead of shaken, and it's delicious.
So should we say? Do we say goodnight, Russell? Then
this will soon
Yeah.
be it'll be soon be a nightcap.
That's what I was thinking. You are gonna be it. The end of this episode is gonna be a mess between me and you,
It's
Russell.
going to be amazing, Gavin. I fully expect you to drink 3 or 4 cold snaps in the time that it takes me to drink this needlessly large carafe of green tea shot. That's really green tea. Like, I don't know, like, what do you call this anymore? It's not a green tea shot, right? Like, this is like a green tea like fountain. Like,
Mixer.
Yeah,
green tea gallons.
Yeah, the green tea gallon. Who knows? But point being, it's here. I'm here. Nick's here. Gavin's here. Guys, there's a lot to talk about this week, but I think really, again, I want to bring this up because this is very important to me. Gavin hates me. I don't know if you guys know this. He ignored my phone call today. I tried to call him, and we've been having this really good rapport. So Nick, I'm glad that you're here so that I can cry to you about Gavin ignoring our co-host and host responsibilities and our relationship dynamics. So really, again, I just want to say thank you, Nick, for being on here.
That's okay. You can dry your tears on my shoulder anytime.
Absolutely. I'm sure with your children that you are very used to having tears dried on your shoulder, your clothes, blankets, your personal belongings, your shoes. Kids probably, I assume. Yeah, I assume they find all the places to make dirty, and then they say, "Let's get that."
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Well,
look, again, I was busy. Okay, I'm always busy. I was working. I had a full day of work. You called me at like 4:00, right? Something crazy like that.
I don't know.
It was around 4. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna find it. 4:09. 4:09. Guess what?
Oh, she's real.
I was in
my 4:09.
I was in meetings till 5:30 today. Okay, so I couldn't pick up in the middle of a meeting.
You could have. You just chose not to.
I chose.
Your priorities don't lie with life. It lies in the work side of the balance.
Yes,
so.
I chose work over my friendship. Yes.
Unbelievable. All right. Well, hey, now that we've got that out of the way, now that I've sufficiently roasted Gavin, as is required by law, it's actually right here on the host checklist. Says introductions, got that one. Roast Gavin for hating me, check that off. So we've got to move on to our main headline for the week, guys. The referees are back, and certainly there was no refereeing controversy. It was perfect and flawless, and everyone was very happy. I think we can all agree that that's exactly what happened. There certainly is no reason to doubt that or go back and point out any inconsistencies in calls that might have frustrated people, right? We're all on the same page?
No.
Oh, big no.
Big no. We had some controversy this weekend.
I don't know. As a Rapids fan, though, yeah, actually, from last week's shit show to this week, we'll take it. Well, no, I'm glad they reached an agreement. It's great, but yeah.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I agree with Nick. Happy that an agreement was reached. I'm happy the people are getting paid. They are human beings. They're not the best at their jobs. We all knew that. So that's why I kind of stood firm on, the replacement refs. Like, they're not doing that bad, in my opinion. So
until the past 2 or 3 weeks, and then our opinion soured very quickly.
Yours soured.
Yeah, mine soured very quickly. That's correct. Thank you for keeping me honest on that, Gavin.
I also didn't suffer at the hands of them too bad, being an Orlando City supporter. They didn't have any egregious games for us, so maybe I would have changed my tune. Maybe.
Well, that's one of 3 on the podcast that was insulated from that. So, Nick, hey, do we want to have our own pity party over here? How did we feel about the referees, though? I mean, Again,
Yeah.
lockout's over. Are there any concerns going forward? I mean, do you think that they're going to kind of like ease into the season? Like they got to get into mid-season form too? Are we going to see an improvement going forward? Do you think it's going to be more of the same? Like where's your head at right now?
Yeah, I mean, like more of the same in terms of like what the pro refereeing standard like normally is, or did you mean that like compared to the replacement refs?
Like both, yeah. I mean,
Both, yeah. I mean, so yeah, look, like it wasn't really for me. Like, I'm really glad the agreement was reached. It seemed like a modest ask for the owners, and I think they once again just showed how selfish and shitty they are overall as owners. And this is not unique to American sports, but they're really greedy. And I think the average came out to maybe $94,000 per owner was the ask. I think this is what I think I read in the Athletic. But like a modest pay bump, travel accommodations increase. Like they weren't asking for that much. Like this was kind of weird to die on this hill. It seemed like the replacement referees, nothing personal. Yeah, they aren't up to speed. They aren't normally doing this, so. Yeah, it's easy to get upset when it's your team. Like last week for Rapids, like, it was a game-changing moment. We did not deserve to win. We did not play well, but the very end of the game, the call changes the game completely. So for those that missed it, we are attacking on a corner. Our guy gets elbowed in the face, and he's bloodied and bruised, and he's on the ground. And the rule is play stops. And nothing else matters. Like play stops when a player goes down because he went down immediately, and they didn't stop the play. And then Rapids did have the ball, and we didn't put out of bounds, but that's not on us. That's not on any team in that situation. The ref should be stopping play as soon as there's a head injury. That's the rule. They didn't do it. Houston went down and scored on a counterattack. So, it's pretty easy to feel aggrieved and upset after that happened. But, I think it's probably also, like you said, they're human. They're coming into a tough situation, and I don't know. I'm kind of throwing my arms up, like I don't know. It's terrible. It sucks. It should be better, but glad that they came to an agreement. And yeah, I think you actually really said it, Russell. I think it will. I think the standard is immediately better, and then they'll probably, a couple weeks maybe like get into kind of like form, as you said.
We can only hope. Gavin, you were much more lukewarm on the situation. Do you want to play devil's advocate? Do you have anything to balance us out? Do you want to echo what Nick said and tell him that he's a brilliant individual and a gentleman and a scholar for expressing that?
I will say he's a brilliant individual, a gentleman, and a scholar. But there were moments. My main takeaway from this whole replacement ref thing is there were bad moments. There are always going to be bad moments, but I think on the whole, for the most part, the refs were fine. And I think that a lot of them should be considered to be brought into the league. Let's expand the pool. Let's, grow the referee strength and not overwork our refs. They do this for a job, so we don't want to have too many to where they can't afford it because they're not getting enough games. But I think we can afford to have a couple more refs on the roster to give our guys breaks every now and then. I mean, refs get fatigued too, mentally and physically from all the travel and everything. And of course, they're not getting paid as well. So anyways, there were bad moments. Yeah, but there's bad moments with pro. We're going to talk about some of them this weekend as well, right? So
no, never.
Never. So for me, I'm kind of like, it's only a talking point because they're replacement refs. And if it was pro, it would just be people lamenting pros' incompetence, in my opinion.
I appreciate your level-headed take on that, Gavin. I actually really like your point, though, about bringing in some of those referees, the ones that performed pretty well. Because to your point, I think not only do referees get fatigued, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's probably some biases built up in referees over time. We talk about like look at England, for instance, and it's like 60% of referees are from the Manchester area. And people want to say, oh, like United and Manchester City, they always get these dodgy calls going for them. And they say there's this unconscious bias. Like, how can you expect them to referee a team that they probably grew up watching? And I think that could be said of maybe a lot of leagues is if you have enough people, you can spread out that work. And if there's even the hint of bias, you can maintain that integrity by just not assigning them to that game. Like look at the referee from the Matt Miazga situation. The referees that were in that locker room when Miazga went in to that locker room in the post-playoff aftermath of the Red Bull match, how do you expect them to referee Matt Miazga in the future?
That's a good point. There's going to be bias there, absolutely.
Yeah, and just like for any referee in any league, for any human in any situation, there is an inherent bias. Your previous life experiences give you an inherent bias. Everyone has it, whether you're aware of it or not. So, but yeah, I mean, and it's funny because every league in the world, fans feel the same way. Refereeing's crap. I mean, Premier League is a really easy example. It's the biggest league, the most money, all this stuff. And there's a lot of people will say that, you know what, actually, you probably get better. It's probably actually even better refereeing in the U.S. I had a friend who's a bigger Premier League fan than domestic soccer. And he's like, God, that was really fast. Their video review was really fast, like compared to watching Premier League. So I don't know. It's all relevant. But it's also just kind of like big picture. Our overall obsession in soccer with refereeing is, I don't know, you could really dissect this in a lot of ways, but like, are we focusing on the wrong thing? Is this silly? I mean, there are wrong calls that happen and it changes the game, hands down. But that's also like always kind of been there to some degree. Now it's magnified, and it's not that you just ignore it, but I just mean, I don't know, it's kind of ridiculous that we know the names of all the referees now.
That's
just like, why do we need to know this? I have a friend who's, love you, Matt, but he knows every freaking referee's name and will tell you this guy did this and he's a fan of this team. I'm like, dude, I don't care. Don't tell me about it. Leave me out of it. I don't want to know. Okay, the call went not your way, or you got lucky, fine. But it is just kind of, sometimes you get into a little bit of like silly season with a level that some of us can get obsessed with refereeing and who they are and the decisions that are made.
Who amongst us has never looked at the referee assignment for your match and gone and looked at their yellow cards given and thought to yourself, this guy's given 7 yellow cards a match on average. This is going to be a terrible match to watch. I don't want to see this.
I will not.
I've never done it.
Right,
okay.
Well.
Okay.
I can 100% honestly tell you, I've never done it.
Nick has the healthiest balance of soccer and stress out of the three of us. Gavin and I over here, pulling our hair out, are going to be going gray by the time, before we're 40 for sure. Mid-30s, jury's still out on that one.
Yeah, well, don't worry. I'm still a masochist, guys. I'm a fan of Colorado Rapids and Tottenham Hotspur. I try to hurt myself all the time.
Yeah, which is insane to me. Here's the thing, Nick. I suspect your Colorado Rapids fandom and your distaste for Stan Kroenke must have forced you to become a Tottenham Hotspur fan.
My hand was forced. You're right.
Yeah, that's
coming clean, guys.
I figured as such. So, guys,
we have a really big base of Arsenal fans in Colorado too. It's kind of funny. Like, don't know how you guys do it.
We're everywhere. There's 2 of us on this call.
Oh God.
Yeah, you're kind of surrounded, man.
You're literally surrounded on my screen. I'm on the left, Gavin's on the right, and we've got you in the center. So, shall we move on to actually talking about our league, though? And maybe, just maybe, we can avoid talking too much about referees. It's going to be impossible because Gavin is aggrieved with the standard of officiating this week. He was complaining to me literally all day at 4:00, especially. He picked up the phone and sent a text to me and said, "I have so many things to talk about referees tonight." And I tried to call him, and he immediately ignored me, straight to voicemail. So that's my truth, my personal truth.
You were dreaming, my friend. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. No, I mean, there were some rough things, but nothing crazy. Just one or two things. We'll get into it.
We will get into it. Well, hey, we're gonna kick off. Nick, I don't want to keep you on too long. And very fortunately, Colorado is one of the early matches. So we're not going to start there, though, because I'm going to force you to stay on by avoiding Colorado. We're going to give you some precious work-life balance time between your family and being on a podcast, while I'm sure you have people in the other room being like, "What's taking so long? Where is this going?"
Right. Yeah. I'll just go change a diaper. I'll be right back, guys.
Yeah. Hey, you got to do what you got to do. So we'll start off, first match of the weekend. And I actually, when I go through and I do my notes, right, for whatever reason, it felt like this match was ages ago. Was Philadelphia 2, Minnesota United 0. And I had to actually go back and rewatch this match through parts of it because I couldn't remember parts of this match across 14 matches in like 2 days of doing notes. So yeah, undefeated Minnesota, no longer undefeated. They fell to still undefeated Philadelphia. And I wouldn't say they even, in my personal opinion, you guys can weigh on this, it didn't feel like they ever really got out of second gear either. Like, they kind of went out with a whimper. Philadelphia got this early lead, and then they just suffocated Minnesota. I mean, there were chances, but there never felt like there was nerves in this for me. Going back either in real time or rewatching it, like once that goal went in for Philly, I was like, they've got this.
They were the better team all night or all day. They were earlier in the day. They were the better team, hands down. It looked comfortable for them. They dominated the match. I agree with everything you said. Minnesota at times, like when they were able to get their foot on the ball, there were a couple times where they did some play around the back and they played through Philadelphia's press, and I think got one or two opportunities. But it took a lot of work for Minnesota, whereas Philadelphia were just easily picking the ball off in the midfield and then using Sullivan as an outlet, and he's just exploding before our very eyes this season. He's having a great start to the season. Maybe not so much in goals and assists, but just in overall performance. He's been really impressive. And so he would just get them up the field, and away they went, eventually getting 2 goals, but man, they were impressive. Looked back to their very best.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to see the game. I was going out to the Rapids LAFC game, so I didn't get to watch it at all. But does it kind of feel like it's for both teams sort of a regression to the mean a little bit? Like, is this closer to where each team maybe is? I don't know.
For Philadelphia, I would say yes. This feels like they've got over that Champions Cup hangover. They're back to true Philly ways, where when you talk about teams that are certainly going to be in the conversation for MLS Cup, you put Philadelphia in there, they look like they're that team right now. Minnesota, jury's still out on them for me personally. I mean, they're off to a really good start this season. Like, shockingly good start this season for Minnesota, which is...
It's taken a lot of late goals for them.
Oh, yeah.
But yes, you're right. They've gotten off to a good start. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, that I was just thinking to myself, like, I don't even recall Reynoso being a factor. Granted, I think he was injured for this one, so it's not like he could have been a factor in this specific match, but they're finding ways to win without the guy that previously, it's like, if he wasn't showing up, then what were you going to do about Minnesota? Like, what hope did they have? So,
yeah, last thing I'll call out is Julian Carranza. 7 goals in 7 appearances in all competitions. Put some respect on that guy's name. He is a really good striker. I put him up there with like top 4, top 5 in the league for me. He's up there. The numbers back it up. His play backs it up. So I'm going to call that out. Russell Wicker Man, you did a podcast with him, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay. He
This
says
is
good morning.
our. He says.
He says good morning.
Wait, it's morning for
Hope
him.
you're well. Yes.
It is the wee hours of the morning over there.
So just want
This
to
is
shout out good morning to him.
This is our dedicated Sheffield correspondent. He tells us everything that we need to know about that side of the pond. So, hello back to him. Very on brand to be awake. I don't know how the man does it.
It's what, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. over there?
2:30 over there.
Wow.
I assume you're talking about Sheffield United.
Yeah, well, he's a Sheffield Wednesday fan.
Okay.
He popped he's popped the sleep emoji in the chat, so he's probably going to bed in a second.
I don't blame him.
Yeah. Anything else on this game, Russell?
No, I think it's time that we have to give Nick his flowers at this point. Like it's time. Colorado versus LAFC. Nick was there at this match. I would like to draw your attention right now to the 2024 Western Conference standings, where I see that Colorado Rapids, after this match week, currently sit above Los Angeles FC, which I never thought I would see the day.
Well, you probably have. I mean, you can probably remember back, was that 3 years ago?
2021. Do you see how little of this carapace is left? Yeah.
Good
Do you think I remember past making this at this point?
Negative. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a really fun game, and it's easy to. I think for a lot of Rapids fans, it's easy to just be kind of pessimistic, and totally understandable why. But especially when it's like LAFC is coming in, or some of the bigger teams. But we've actually done really well against LAFC historically. So it's now 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss in Colorado since they've come into the league. So on some level, we've kind of got their number at home. Now away, a different story. But it was a nice early kickoff, or only afternoon kickoff of the year. So it's 2:00 here for the kickoff, and it was a pretty nice day, sunny in 60s. Couldn't have asked for anything better. I went to the game and brought like a big group of friends, like 20 or so friends who were kind of soccer and Rapids curious, like 2 or 3 diehards, and then a bunch of stragglers.
You made some believers that day, I think.
Yeah, 5 goals and a red card. You bet your ass I did. And they're like, "Is it like this everywhere?" Yes, totally. It's never a 0-0, 1-0 game. That never happens.
Nick, you're doing great work for the league, my friend. Great work.
They should give you a sponsorship. Give you some free tickets or something.
There you go.
Nick, I tagged you in the group chat. I don't know if you ever saw when I tagged you during the match, and I tagged you. I said, I think Rapids are going to find a last-minute winner. And that was like 30 seconds prior to LAFC scoring their second goal. And I was like, well, ignore that statement. And then we know how this ended. So, like, ignore my statement about ignoring it. They did find the last-minute winner.
Well, you were right. I mean, it did kind of feel like going into that moment that when LAFC scored their second, it did kind of feel like, Rapids are about to get one. I mean, we were just laying it on them and wave after wave of attack, and they just kept, pushing back and back and back. And we always knew, and there I am, like telling my friends, like, "Oh, watch out! They're kicking it out to Denny Boanga on the wing. Nothing else matters." Like, and you saw, everyone who has seen him play, like, "Oh my God, this guy's so slick. He gets the ball on his foot and he just creates magic." And almost every time he touched the ball, he's getting in between 2 or 3 players easily. But luckily, I don't think he had a shot on goal. But that was a sucker punch when they put in the second one, for sure. But you still had that feeling. It wasn't just like blind hope. I'm glad you're backing me up here, Russell. It wasn't just my blind optimism as a Rapids fan.
They looked good, really. And it's been 3 years since I've said that, but they looked legitimately like a team that was bringing threat to goal. And I was like, is this it? Like, are we about to watch Colorado become a relevant team again?
Yeah, it definitely seems like that. And I mean, it was a frustrating start to the season. Not a train wreck, but we let some games get away and didn't start that great. And one of the biggest things going into this was like, all right, like Georgie has had some good games, but we need Mihailovic to really step into this stardom, record signing, role, and he did. And we also, I really like what Chris Armas has been doing. Everyone kind of expected, all right, he's going to bring in the Red Bull system. And there is the makeup for that in Colorado. And we've done it before, but he hasn't done that. And it actually worked out. But what I saw, I don't know if it looked any different to you guys on TV, but what I saw was that Georgi Mihailovic came off the left wing and came into a true number 10 position. And then we had Calvin Harris on the left wing and Kevin Cabral on the right. So I think there was maybe a little hesitancy in the guys behind him in midfield, behind Georgie. So to date, that's been Ollie Larraz and Cole Bassett. So neither one are really known for their defensive prowess. And I've been saying, like, really since that, like, 2021 time period, like, you had Kellen Acosta next to Jack Price. So you had a destroyer in the double pivot. Right now, we kind of have, like, Ollie Larraz and Cole Bassett are more like playmakers. I mean, they can both run all over the pitch, which is great. But he changed it up just a little bit. But I'd still say I really liked how Chris Armas has not really like sacrificed the system. There was this small change I think he made, putting Georgie in that 10 role. But otherwise, we are not doing that high press Red Bull soccer. We're playing a little bit more possession. And in this game, there was a lot more crosses going in. And it's been a slower possession-based system tactically. So, I think those things obviously all worked out well for us. And, Georgie had his coming out party, 2 goals and an assist. I mean, that second goal was in the 83rd minute. Amazing, and you just love, also as fans, like for you guys, like fans and a lot of our listeners that are just hardcore MLS fans, love seeing this kind of thing. Maybe it's a giant being taken down, but maybe it's a previous player from the league coming back like this that, like, all right, he's back. Georgie's back. And yeah, it's exciting because it's not all right, Rapids are just going to sit back, 5 defenders and then 4 in front of them and then hope and pray. That's not how they're playing. And that's maybe even the most exciting part about all of this.
Nick, I want to tell you, I believed so much in what I saw from the Rapids at 1-1 that I actually put a live bet in at plus 400 odds.
Yes.
Yeah, I won that. So
nice.
the Rapids helped me get close to breaking even on a catastrophic weekend of sports betting when almost everything else went wrong. The Rapids somehow went right. So,
well, on behalf of Colorado, you're welcome.
Yeah,
Russell, I did the same thing. I did the same exact thing.
I'm pretty sure a couple of my friends did that at the game too.
I mean, you guys were all over them. I mean, altitude played a part. I think LAFC got tired at the end. But still, you guys were really pushing them back. You weren't really giving them many opportunities on the break even. And, I mean, eventually just the quality shone through for sure. I was actually reading your article earlier this week that you put out on MLSnowpodcast.com. And you called out that Larraz might be dropped. But I thought he played really well in this match. So do you think he's kept his spot for now over the new midfielder?
Yeah, so it's an interesting situation. So Ollie Larraz has played really well, and he's just getting better every game. I mean, he's young. Is he 19? No, he's not 19. How old is Ollie Larraz? So I think he's earned it, and he has stayed. Sorry?
I said, you're going to look it up, and you'll be like, oh, he's 16. I'll be like, oh, feel myself aging by the moment.
So he has definitely played his way in. He's 22. And he started every game with Cole Bassett in center mid, which is pretty cool, having like 2 local kids that are homegrowns who are now like the core of the midfield. The reason that I've kind of expected it, like building up to this, was that the player that we brought in, I don't know how to pronounce his name correctly. He's from Senegal, Lamine Diack. He's played for Nantes and he played in Turkey, and we brought him in on a shorter term loan, and he's a true ball winning defensive midfielder. So I thought, like, tactically, like, once again, like, are we going to have that defensive midfielder in here and playing and starting? Because we also had Jasper Loffelson, who we just brought over from RSL, same profile, ball winning defensive mid. And he got a game in before he got injured, but they've dropped Cole back next to Ollie. It kind of seems hard to drop Ollie the Roz. I mean, it's easy in person to get caught up in the moment. I don't know how it looks when you're watching it on TV, but I think he's just been amazing, Ollie the Roz. But I'm also still so curious to see what it would look like with Diak in. Cole Bassett can also play like every position on the field. So like he can move up to center mid or to like an attacking mid or a wing role. We can put him anywhere pretty much. But I just want to see I'm also just so curious to see what Diak looks like. So the Roz has earned it, but I'm also very Diak curious.
One last question that I have in my mind here, is this a one-off performance? Or do you think this is a trend based on what you've seen so far across the season, that it's like now it's starting to make sense? Now what Armas is doing is starting to sink in with the players. Now they're finding chemistry, and this is going to be a repeatable result. Maybe not every week, but this is going to be something that they can do maybe as often as they don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question, and but I think they've got they've got what it takes to do well. I mean, this is a very low bar to improve on last season, historically bad, like worst season ever. So that bar is going to be one that we can definitely clear. I mean, to me, it looks like between the coach and the players, they have what it takes to really be competitive. I don't think anyone's going to say like, oh, they're going to race to the pole position in the West. But I can absolutely see a top 4 level finish for this team. Like they're good enough to do that. If they can avoid any serious injuries, that's always a tough thing to predict. But I think they're definitely good enough to keep this going. I think this was the game that like, and Gavin and anyone who maybe read my article maybe knows this, as I put in there, like, it takes sometimes just one bounce of the ball the right way, one goal, or in Georgie's case, 2 goals and an assist, which was awesome. Still riding a high on this. But, I think this has kicked off, something that's going to be really good for the team. I think that Chris Armas is not like too rigid in the system where he's not going to change things like he did this past week and slid Georgie into the number 10 role and threw on an extra winger. I always thought like Georgie's a 10. I know he's played wing, and I know he can be productive on the field anywhere he is. And maybe part of it is I'm old school and I'm like, why aren't we playing with a 10? Well, it doesn't happen that much anymore. But maybe it worked. Maybe this is just a one-time tactical change. But it just seems like they have the makeup of there's enough quality players in the team. The coach knows where the talent is, and I think he man manages well, as we've seen. So I think they've got what it takes to go on a roll and be successful this season and get to where I think like not just Rapids fans, but anyone who's really paying attention, bringing in these transfers they did this offseason, they really should be competitive. So hopefully I didn't just curse them. Thanks a lot, Russell.
It really makes you feel any better. I'll throw more money on them this weekend. Who they got?
It really is all eyes on Colorado at the start of this season. You guys have been up and down, to say the least. Any final words on the team and where you think they'll go from here? I'm interested to hear. Like,
yeah,
do you see them growing? Do you think this was more of a fluke?
Yeah, I mean, completely honestly, I don't think it's a fluke. I mean, I think there's games in the past where I can honestly, hold up my hand and say, that was a fluke, and it just doesn't feel like it was going on. And the other thing that that I think is really a pleasant change for a Rapids fan, but I think for anyone, Seattle and LAFC are not, top dogs in the West right now. And it's early. Everything can change. There's been seasons like in any league where a really good team starts poorly, and it doesn't take much to get into the playoffs in MLS. But it does seem like, man, I don't know what's going on with Seattle, but with some of the traditional big dogs being down, I think that really helps. A lot of respect for Minnesota as a team. I also just kind of wonder what how consistent they can be long term. And there's other teams that might have questions like that. So I think that helps when you're kind of thinking about things long term. What are our competitors going to be doing out there? But yeah, I think this is just exactly what we needed to get the confidence going. And I really want to see, in particular, our Brazilian striker Rafa Navarro really take off, because he's got a great skill set. There hasn't been a lot of great service, which is a repetitive theme for Colorado Rapids soccer, but obviously it's improving. And with a guy like Georgi Mihailovic, behind you feeding you the ball, I think he's going to start finding the net soon. But I think it's really exciting, and can't wait to see what they do next. Which we go to Miami. Away to Miami next weekend, so that could be very interesting.
Literally anything could happen in that match.
Yeah, it's I think it's a normal 7:30 kickoff, but MLS After Dark, anything can happen. This Rapids team right now and this Miami team right now should be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more Busquets at center back personally.
How did he do at center back, by the way? I didn't get to see that.
He did okay.
Yeah,
he actually made a big tackle on a transition moment for NYCFC. I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, transition. That's the hard part for him running.
Yes, literally. So that was the surprise. He really he busted a leg to get there.
Yeah, well,
and a hip.
He doesn't, because
yeah,
it's not like they've got tons of guys who can step in to replace him.
Right. Yeah, trade away all those assets.
Hey, they'll do numbers on Apple TV, though, so watch out. GAM will be linked in the future, to your viewers on Apple TV. Breaking news here, April 1st, 2024.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, Gavin, Nick, do either of you have anything more to say on this match? Nick, I know I don't want to feel like I'm forcing you out, but I know you also said you only had time for so long on the podcast. I don't want to hold you on away from your family forever.
Appreciate that. I hear my toddlers screaming in the bathtub right now. Don't worry, they're not drowning. They're probably fine.
If they're screaming, they're not drowning.
Right. It's silence you should be afraid of.
Dad over here. All right. I don't know that I have any other parting thoughts. Other than just reiterating, how exciting it was to be there. I'm sure you guys would take plenty of pleasure in what was initially my excitement to see Hugo Lloris being a Tottenham fan, and man, in person, it was very cool to see him. And I just kind of thought, wow, he does not really have it anymore. His footwork, his reactions, he didn't really look as confident. Like being in person too, you can see these things, feel it. And it just felt like he didn't really quite have that confidence either. Which a lot of the team, they felt, I don't know, maybe they're tired,
Elevation.
This kind of thing happens. Yeah. Our big advantage that we like to brag about, but also laugh and make fun of ourselves about. But anyway, yes. And for all the other fans, like my friends, yes, every game is guaranteed to have 5 goals and a red card. That's the bar. That's where we're going to set it.
That's a Nick Holmberg guarantee. Money back guarantee.
Exactly.
So please submit all requests for refunds to the MLS front offices.
Right, not to me. Don't send that to me.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, Nick, thank you very much for making some time to come on to the podcast. As always, a pleasure to have you on here. For everyone listening, of course, you can find Nick on social media at Nick Holmberg 11. Nick, Thank you very much. We'll see you on here at some point again, I'm sure.
Yeah, awesome.
Hey, Nick,
Thanks, guys.
Nick, real quick, before you leave, just don't hit the leave button, by the way. Just turn
Roger
off.
that, because I was going to do that and make sure I spike the whole podcast.
Yeah, just turn off your camera, mute yourself, and you're good to go. And that's just a weird thing about this system. That's all.
Yeah.
Russell, you're going to have to give Gavin a raise.
Yes.
And not like a real raise.
Gavin, I will triple the amount that I'm paying you on this podcast.
Beautiful. I love it.
Nick, is triple good? Would you like to see it go higher than that?
I approve the terms.
Okay.
Thank you. Good man.
We'll find it in the budget. We'll tighten our belts.
All right, good stuff. See you guys.
See you, man.
Thanks, Nick.
Watch him just press leave anyways. He didn't, so thank you. That's good.
We appreciate Nick.
Hey, just quickly.
Able to join us.
Yeah, that was great. Really good insights.
Tell me, Gavin. Tell me quickly.
Wickerman says, I look forward to Busquets retiring, gives the grass a chance to recover from all his diving.
Oh my gosh. Well, hey, speaking of Wickerman, I was actually talking with him. I'm going to skip over one of the matches here. I want to talk about Charlotte versus Cincinnati next.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking because I was thinking to myself.
Because you talk?
Yeah, because I talk. I do talk to people. And, I had mentioned Charlotte looks better. They're being coached by Dean Smith this year, experience coaching in England. And I described to Wickerman, I said, what's weird is that I don't think that I have any knowledge of Charlotte where like there's a player that jumps out to me and says, that's a huge name. Like this is a big personality, iconic face of the franchise. And something that he pointed out to me is he's like, yeah, that seems up par for the course for Dean Smith. It seems like historically he has done quite well in coaching those kinds of teams where it's not necessarily this big, huge personality you've got to manage. So that's the kind of hard, key insight that we get from our dedicated Sheffield correspondent.
Yeah, Dean Smith's done a great job with Charlotte.
He really has. Shockingly well. I mean, like, Gavin, think about it. I don't know, like, any of these big names they've brought in. I'm pretty sure they've actually had a lot of players return.
They have, but they've had players improve as well. Like, they've had, like, their own players improve, like what you're talking about with returning. But then they've had good new players come in and really step up under Dean Smith. He's really getting the best out of his group of players, I believe, right now. He could add some more talent and get even better results than they're already getting. But they're playing well, they're pressing well, they're winning the ball back in midfield. They're not an easy team to play against, as you saw this weekend.
Oh
and
my gosh, I was so annoyed.
You guys were lucky to get out of there with a point, is what I understand.
We did not deserve to get out of there with a point.
And do you think that was down to you guys being really, really bad, or Dean Smith's Charlotte forcing you guys to be bad and put you guys into areas you're not comfortable being in?
We definitely were a bad team on the day. However, Dean Smith's team was also a fairly competent and good team. So I think if you compound those, to your point, that midfield, great call out. We could not for the life of us string together 2 or 3 passes in midfield. We could barely hold possession in that part of the field. It was either we were passing it around our own defensive third, or we were hitting a very lucky speculative ball through multiple players to usually connect to either Lucho or Luca out there on the left wing. And aside from that, I mean, it was really rough. If you were Cincinnati, they struggled legitimately. Like, it was, did they have chances? Yes. Were they clinical? No. Did they deserve a point? Also, no. I think if you're Charlotte, you feel a bit hard done that you didn't hold on to it. Granted, Bupenza did get that final goal off a really good ball by Yedlin. Good link-up play. You would hope to see that more often. But it doesn't cancel out what was largely a very uninspired match for Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm not going to add too much because, we spent a lot of time with Nick and we got to fly through some of these. So I think we're good to move on. But
we're okay to
agree with
fly
everything
through
you say.
one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, we'll go back in time. We're going to go back to DC United versus Montreal. DC United did pull out that 1-0 win. Benteke is the greatest missed it by that much player of the week. That's my honorary award to him. He was offside on a goal by just a little bit. He hit it off the crossbar, got fingertip. The man almost had a goal so many times. And it was Pedro Santos, I think, who ended up getting the goal for DC United. Yep. So only other item here really of note, Waterman got a straight red on a pretty late challenge, no attempt to play the ball. I thought it was a dogzo at first. It was not dogzo because the player was not clear at all, but Waterman went in super late, didn't attempt to play ball, dangerous, reckless challenge. VAR actually came back, turned that into a yellow. Gavin, did you see that? And what are your thoughts on it if you did see it?
Unfortunately, I didn't see it. I didn't see much of this game, in all honesty, and didn't have a chance to hit the highlights. So say that again. Waterman got a straight red, and ref was pulled to the monitor and said, "This is only a yellow."
Correct.
I mean, I didn't see it, but what are your thoughts? Since obviously you did catch it.
I would be curious as to what the justification was, because Waterman had a lot of separation. There was no chance, none, that he was catching up. He was out. He was completely gone from the play. The player was past him. The ball was nowhere near. He goes in, cynically goes with the foot, potentially the studs. I don't recall if studs were involved with this. Goes specifically into the back leg of the player to pull them down. Again, zero attempt to play the ball. The ball was nowhere near this. I understand why the ref went for a red on this one. I don't know. I mean, you could argue that it's a professional foul, right? He's stopping the counterattack and that professional fouls are yellow cards. But this is a guy at full stretch laying his body out to make any sort of contact with the back trailing leg of a player. I don't know if I would have overturned this one. I understand the thought process. This one felt judgmental for me. I don't want to see other players taking this type of chance and opportunity because someone's going to get seriously hurt.
I just went and found the highlight. I think it's a red. I'm very surprised that the decision was made to turn that around. I don't think that's clear and obvious enough to take that away. Ultimately, it doesn't matter because DC win the match. But that would obviously have been a huge talking point if that weren't the case, right? So I'm pretty happy to hear that it didn't impact the final result.
Yeah. So
DC were good in this match from what I've seen, just stats wise, and our correspondent Richard wrote a great article in his series that he does, and it's up on the website. Go check it out. And he recaps the game really well. So we'll push you to that because I don't have a lot of insight on this. But DC were aggressive. They pressed. And they kind of dominated the overall match.
Awesome. I have nothing else to add there, Gavin. Shall we continue on to your wheelhouse with a 1-1 draw between Orlando and New York Red Bulls?
Yeah, I'll be quick with this one as well. We were okay. We weren't great, but we weren't terrible. Still some players out due to coming back from international break, but we had more of a full strength squad this time. New York Red Bulls came for a smash and grab and nearly got it. They got a penalty first half, and after that they just controlled the match defensively. I mean, we created some chances, but not a ton. And it wasn't until those final stages where you start to generate momentum and you start to push teams back, and they're trying to conserve the lead, is when we really started to push and push and push. And eventually we did get the goal off of an own goal from a cross, and that was basically it. I mean, New York Red Bulls will feel they should have won this match. They had a couple chances on the counter that they squandered. There was one where I think it was Manuel was one-on-one with Galese, and he was on that kind of left side where you expect players to curl it into the bottom right-hand corner of the goal, and he went to go near post, and it was just a really baffling decision. I don't know if he mishit it, but that was the moment for them, and he could have just easily slotted that home. So that was a big miss for Red Bulls, and really the reason why they didn't get all 3 points in Orlando. They played well defensively, and like I said, it was an own goal. That it was just an unfortunate deflection that took the result away from them.
Wow. Both of our teams lucky to get a point.
Yeah, in my opinion, yeah. We played well at times, so did Red Bulls, though.
Yeah. Well, Gavin, shall we talk about yet another theme of a Florida-based team getting 1 point on the week? Miami versus New York City FC. We talked about it a little bit. The debut of Sergio Busquets as a center back. No Messi at this match. NYCFC actually leaving with points. I believe this puts them now on, 4 points. This is the first draw that they've had of the season. So second result keeps them on at least somewhat similar footing to some other teams in the East. I was actually going to ask you on this one if Nick Cushing is still on fraud watch. I think Nick Cushing is still on fraud watch. I don't know if a draw against a Miami that is shorthanded, even if they have some of the big names and some really nice players and potential there, I don't know if a draw against that is enough to say, oh, they've turned a corner. I still have a lot of questions about Cushing.
NYCFC are so hard for me right now just because, they're playing a lot of these close games and the margins aren't going their way a lot of the times. I'll just read out the results. 1-0 loss at Charlotte, 2-0 at St. Louis, 1-2 home against Portland with the late goal from Evander, right? So those 3 losses to open the season, we're thinking this team's terrible. They get the win in against Toronto. They lose at Cincinnati in a hard-fought match, and they get a draw away at Miami. And it's like, okay, there's a lot of these close matches where it's like the odd goal here and there determines the result for them. And they're having chances in these matches. It's not like they're having 10 chances, but they're having 2-3 chances, and they need to create a little bit more, but they're just not going in for them right now. And so I'm really struggling to classify them as this terrible team where Cushing's on fraud watch and he needs to go, or do they just not have the quality to take advantage of the chances that they create as a team? And that's where I'm struggling with them right now.
I still think Cushing needs to go.
Well, they created chances in this match. It's against a hobbled Miami, but they created chances away at Cincinnati as well, and you guys had to eke out a 1-0.
Right.
That's where I'm kind of going back and forth with them.
That's fair.
I feel like I just need to see a couple more matches, and if they get through those and they lose the 2 of them, or even if they win the 2 of them, I feel like the next 2 are going to really tell me where they're at as a team. I'm just not there yet.
Okay. Well, we'll put a pause on that one, but we did have a contributor's corner from Coach Joe on NYCFC, specifically calling out New York City FC, even without Messi. Inter Miami still dictated for long stretches of play. Busquets looked a mighty capable center half. I'm glad we all agree on that. Suarez continued to look dangerous and managed to score off a set piece. Probably could have had a hat trick, which is insane. Side note, this isn't something that Coach Joe's saying, but Suarez hat trick, Gavin, we talked about how Suarez was going to come to this league, and we were like, oh, he doesn't have the legs for it anymore. And now here he is like on the golden boot pace and like scoring all the time. And it's like, oh my gosh, we're going to look like a fraud league. Anyways, back to contributors corner here. Enough of that diversion. We can complain afterwards. A draw at Miami is probably a generous result for NYCFC, who finally come home with something from an away day in 2024. This upcoming home stretch is critical for the club and manager. It sounds like Coach Joe's actually maybe aligned with you there, that maybe there's not a decision to be made just yet.
I don't think just yet.
I think he's on the same page as me personally, but I'm giving the options.
Okay. You're throwing it out there.
I'm throwing it out there.
It's hard. I don't put a ton of stock in this match just because of Inter Miami's scenario and NYCFC's scenario, where Inter Miami had a lot of, again, hobbled, missing a lot of players. NYCFC, playing lots of close matches. That seems to be their MO right now, is keep the game close and then try and win on the odd goal. So,
right, which that strategy can be very admirable if you aren't sitting at 4 points in 14th place in the East.
Fair.
So, Gavin, shall we carry on? We'll move to Toronto for Sporting Kansas City. Gavin, I'm going to actually start off with the contributors corner just to set the tone here from our Sporting Kansas City correspondent, Travis. You got to feel good after a 3-1 win. Defense continues to be solid, and the post-game analysis determined that the one goal against was probably offsides. Peter Vermees used subs instead of running out old men into the ground. The subs that came on were impactful and brought on a level of athleticism often missing in our game. That said, the offense was lacking. You can't rely on Golazzos to sustain your team long term, and we continue to outperform our XG, and the majority of our shots come from too far away. Following up with an overall note, Travis goes on to say the table in the West is wild. Have to expect some of the teams at the bottom are going to find a way to move up, and some of the gimme games from last year just aren't going to be there. Good isn't good enough. Luckily, all signs are pointing to adding real quality in the summer transfer window, and we have a shot to be special by the end of the season. Gavin, that's a very optimistic, and I have to say, balanced take. That was one of my biggest takeaways, is that when I was watching this match back, the goalkeeper for Toronto had a phenomenal, amazing game up to like the 60th minute, when two absolute worldies from like 35, 40 yards out got sent in past them. And from there, the floodgates, like at that point it was open, right? Like the third goal for SKC comes, I think, as a result of the keeper being like way too far out, trying to stop that sort of opportunity again. And it's just like, once you're down 2-0, once you're down 3-0, like that's it. Toronto get the consolation goal in like the last 10 seconds of the match.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. That's where I was going. I mean, the beginning of this game, there was no defense for either team. It was just
felt like Toronto should have won this if you went off just the first 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was back and forth. I mean, Toronto had an offside goal. SKC hit the post. I think both keepers were called to make big saves for their teams. But it's the bangers at the end of the day, Voltaire and Davis outside the box. And that was the only difference.
Way outside the box. I
mean,
think Tyler Adams in the U.S. men's national team match against Mexico. Think that type of goal twice in the same match in the span of like 5 minutes.
It's just ridiculous.
The other insane part. Like, you would never expect to make one of those. Like, maybe you get that once a season. They got it twice in the span of like this far apart. Like,
it was insane.
Ridiculous.
It was, yeah. So I mean, when I opened my phone and I looked at the score and saw that it was 3-1 SKC, it was 3-0 at the time. I was like, what the heck? That wasn't supposed to happen. Toronto were supposed to be, doing real good this season. How are they getting played off the park? that makes sense. It was two phenomenal goals, really. And that's just it. So again, can't read too much into this from Toronto. When you played well, you weren't clinical. And then SKC, they weren't even clinical with their chances when it comes to their good chances. They just pulled off magic from way downtown.
Yeah. And not only way downtown, but through traffic and during rush hour. And it was actually the opposite side of the city. It was, from from the distillery district in Toronto all the way out to like Little Italy. Like, we're talking all the way across town.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so good one for SKC on the road. They needed that.
Yeah. So, Gavin, I suppose we could move on to talking about Houston versus San Jose. If you're interested in maybe getting into a first proper fraud watch, Luchi Gonzalez, fraud watch?
Did you see the Chicho Arango incident in a completely separate match?
You mean the one where he like punched a guy off
in
camera?
The chest,
off the chest,
or in the arms? We can't really tell, right?
That was in the St. Louis match this week, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep,
yes, I did see that. I'm interested to see where you're taking this. Please continue.
Did you see the red card given to San Jose that completely changes the complexion of this game?
Gavin, I'm not going to lie to you. No, I didn't see the red card on this one. I saw it like while I was watching through the match. I didn't pay attention to how it happened.
Very similar scenario around the halfway line.
Absolutely
where
hate that. Oh.
A player is holding on to, I think it's Preston Judd, and he just kind of shoves him off him, like, get off. And the Houston player drops like a sack of potatoes, man. Just and rolls around. He is writhing on the floor. Oh my gosh, I've just been murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And
probably saw his life flash before his eyes.
Yes, and the ref VAR buys it and pulls into the monitor, home field advantage, whatnot. Red card. And so it's literally almost the exact same scenario as the Chicho Arango one. Obviously, Chicho Arango stays on the field, goes on to score a hat trick. San Jose player gets sent off, and they eventually lose the game 2-1. So I had to call that out. That was something, again, going back to those moments where I'm like,
Change the game.
But change the game. Go ahead.
You did mention home field advantage. Houston player, they get the red card call against San Jose. RSL was also at home, and Chicho Arango was not sent off. Do you think home field advantage played into both these, perchance?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
I think that's a good call out. I totally forgot RSL were at home.
Yep.
I was going to say, San Jose scored in the first minute. 56 seconds on the clock, something like that. They score in the first minute. The game is, they get to dictate the game. They get to dictate, how much they press, how much they sit back, and try and hit on transition opportunities against Houston. And it's all in their hands. Red card takes it all away from them, puts it all in Houston's hands. To San Jose's credit, they sat in their deep block really well, and Houston didn't have too many chances the remainder of the game. And then it was a quick turn and snapshot from Ferreira, and then I think it was a flick on corner, and Escobar just roofed it into the net. It was a really satisfying goal to see. But the red card changes everything.
Okay, so I do want to loop back around because I think we got away from this. Fraud watch, Luchi Gonzalez.
Oh my gosh, sorry. San Jose, man, they've not been good since he's come in.
No,
he had a good start. I think they got all the way up to 4th or 5th at one point last season. Whatever he's trying to do, it's falling on deaf ears when it comes to those players right now.
Yeah, and granted, I don't think San Jose have what some might in the business call an all-star front office. However,
now Leach and Wondolowski and Luchi Gonzalez doesn't really scream elite.
yeah, I feel like they should at least be competent, but who knows? Maybe it's time for a change. And I think it's the easiest thing in the world if you have to either replace every single player on the team, replace your front office and that entire support network, or replace the head coach. One of those is the easiest out of the three options.
Yeah. Don't say the GM. I mean, I just saw on Twitter earlier, it's Chris Leach's birthday. So we can't say Chris Leach out. Happy birthday,
joke,
Chris.
Right? No, April 1st?
No April Fools. They said happy birthday. They put the cake there. If I got fooled, I got fooled. But
you got fooled. All right.
That'd be a weird thing to pick a fool about.
That would be an amazing commitment to content, though.
Yes, it would.
I hope that's content.
Okay, what match is next? Who we got next?
Gavin, we're going to transition from the single fraud watch of Luchi Gonzalez to a potential double fraud watch. The matchup of Austin FC against Dallas. Wolf and Estevez? Fraud watch for both of them? I think Wolf, we might have been out on since last season. I think Estevez, I'm ready to be out on. And I recognize that Dallas has like 7 players injured right now, but like they're not getting consistent performances or results, and something has to give.
Man, you love fraud watch.
I love fraud watch.
You love talking about coaches, bro.
I love fraud watch, Gavin. I'm addicted to it. This is like my dopamine hit of the week.
They're both on the list. I mean,
got all this flack for being about fraud watch, and this man's over here like, you love fraud watch. You love talking this up, and then he's like, but you're right. Yes, both of them are on the list. Like, come on.
Okay, so here's the thing. I mean, Dallas, they're trying this 3-back system. It's not working. They've been terrible this season. They were terrible in this match. And it's ugly to watch, honestly. They're not creating a lot of chances. They're not keeping the ball out of their net. It's not great. Austin, on the other hand, they've been really bad this season too. I think this was their... Yes. I think this was their best performance. They had most of the aggressive chances and aggressive nature in this match. Like, they were the team pushing, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Those are the words trying to come out of my mouth. They were the team trying to play the game and score. And Dallas were just kind of out there trying to be competitive.
Right. But Dallas still had chances, for the record.
Well, obviously. Every team's got chances.
But they had really good quality chances. They just didn't convert them. Like, that to me is when you have a team missing all these important players and you're still giving up really good chances to a team made up, like, missing these names and the difference makers and like your key leadership. Like, I'm not saying you got to be perfect, but like Dallas shouldn't have been anywhere in this game under those circumstances. And they were in this game for most of it.
And that's because Austin viewers and listeners aren't very good. They're not very good.
Oh my God.
Any game against Austin.
We've been tagged in a million laminating things, Gavin.
Yeah. But okay, at this point in time, I will clarify it. At this point in time, they're not good. Simple as. And so the fact that they beat Dallas, and look, rivalry match, that always plays a part. Teams show up for rivalry matches, but yeah. Austin were great. Y'all good over there?
Give me one
you
second.
Look like you're okay. I'll move us on to
Right here. This is for you. I wrote.
It's not
this
showing.
for you. No.
It's not showing. It's too.
It says right here.
What does it say?
It says.
I gotta
says-
blow up my screen. Austin are not good, Gavin. It's on the paper.
It's on the paper. What's on this paper, anyways? Oh, nice. It's a blank sheet of paper. We're good. I didn't.
You
write
should
anything
just
else.
you should put like
I'll
our
laminate
logo on it
for you.
and laminate it and mail it to them.
I will mail it to you, Gavin.
Me?
To you, yes, so that you can remember this episode.
When they win the MLS Cup?
Yeah, when they win the MLS Cup. That's not happening this year. Let's move on. Gavin, it's time for us to talk about yet another fraud. Nashville versus Columbus.
Russell, I think you're on Fraud Watch.
I might be on Fraud Watch. But Gavin, let's go ahead and play out the scenario again. Let's talk about it, Gavin. Gary Smith has blown leads nonstop. They haven't looked good since Leagues Cup of last year. They're uninspired. They're not getting performance from their players. They're not aggressive. They don't seem to be, having any sort of identity outside of just Mukhtar go save us, and occasionally other players will put in some good performance that helps them get across the line and provide hope. Gavin, tell me why I'm absolutely spot on that Gary Smith is on Fraud Watch.
Well, because the team aren't playing well, essentially. And they've kind of been in this rut. They've kind of been in this mode for almost a full season's worth of matches at this point. And so, they had that run to the Leagues Cup final, and I think that's really saving him his job right now, because he's gotten them to the final of a tournament, and that's what you want as a club. But yeah, in terms of normal play, I was surprised to see them even get a draw against Columbus. I had Columbus pipped as the favorites, even though they were winning this match. Whenever Nashville pull out a good performance, it's a surprise to me, essentially.
Agreed. Yeah, it feels like it's a surprise to the players that are on the field as well.
Yeah. So they end up getting a draw against a good Columbus team. I don't think that's terrible, but in the context of their season, lots of draws, throwing wins away, that's where it starts to get really frustrating for the fans. So yeah.
I think in the context of it's a good Columbus team, this was the week that you should have beat Columbus, because no Cucho, missing per quote team policy from Wilfred Nancy post-match. They have injuries that they're dealing with. They had players that were on international duty that are coming back that maybe they're not fully rested. They've been out away from the team for a little bit. This was the week. And tell me what I'm missing. I'm blanking.
They have CONCACAF Champions Cup tomorrow night.
And
Tuesday night.
I completely forgot that CONCACAF Champions Cup was a competition, Gavin. And CONCACAF Champions.
You've had a nightmare, my friend.
Well, here's the thing. My team's not in it anymore. It doesn't exist. It's not an important competition from the standpoint of I've blocked it out of my mind. I'm telling myself it doesn't matter.
So Columbus made 3 substitutions by the time it was the 60th minute, I want to say.
Yeah.
I believe.
Wait. Gavin, don't take my word for it, though, about Nashville. Take our correspondent corner from Wyatt at Super Duper Wyatt. Nashville has given up a lead for the 3rd time this year. This is the complete opposite of the team we've seen the last few years, where getting a goal up was clenching a game. This could be attributed to multiple starters out, including 3 defenders and a goalie, but I think it's Gary is not able to adjust his play style when we have a weak defense but a strong attack. He tries to park the bus, and we're just not able to do that right now. So unless he can change his tactics to fit the players he has for selection, he needs to do that, or we're going to have a piss poor season. Quote, end quote.
Great quote.
Great quote. Spot on. And I don't know if that came across in my mental space without Wyatt saying that, but I think Gary doesn't have a tactic that seems to suit his players right now, because to his point, when you think of Nashville, you think of 1-goal games, you think of Walker Zimmerman and the rest of the team sitting back there and they're locking it down. And it's the most, frustrating thing in the world to watch because they got 1 goal and then they just completely, collapse and make it unbearable to play through them. They don't have those players right now. They went out and they got attacking talent. They got Tyler Boyd. They have Sam Surridge, who's by all rights should be a very good player. They have Hani Mukhtar, a previous MVP of the league. The attacking talent should be there. They have Schaffelberg too. Like, how do you get no production from these players?
Well, it's the tactics. Wyatt is correct. It's the tactics. They have the players. I mean, if I had a center back as good as Zimmerman, I'd be taking advantage of that and like allowing him to kind of. I would lean a lot of my tactics onto him. To be a great team, some players have to play 2 roles or have to be superhero at times, and you have to kind of put the load onto them. And usually that happens in the defense so that teams can, take advantage and send extra men forward on offense, push teams back, dominate in the final third, score lots of goals. But you need someone as good as Zimmerman to go and clean up any messes. Zimmerman can defend on the halfway line. We've seen it before. He's not just some deep-headed out-the-box defender. He can do that well, but he can defend in transition. I've seen it plenty of times. So I think they could flip their tactics, and they have one of the best center backs in the league. Use him. Don't protect him. Don't put him in a 3-back system where you're doing too much. You don't need to when you have a player was he back-to-back MLS Defender of the Year?
I think he's been,
or just about.
He might even be a potentially 3-time Defender of the Year.
Like, flip it. Use him like he's one of the best defenders in the league, and leave him on an island to go defend, and stick an extra 2 men forward and go score some goals. I think it's not going to happen, obviously, but I think Nashville are just almost like afraid to make a change. Not even necessarily in like head coach personnel, but that's what it seems like, but also just like a change in like club identity right now. They're kind of stuck.
They're in a rut.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I mean, they're I don't know what to do about Nashville. Couldn't tell you. Wait, what I can tell you, though, is I'm moving us on to, you talked about it a little bit earlier, Real Salt Lake versus St. Louis. It's the 3-1. It's the Chicho Arango show where he doesn't get sent off and then goes on to score a hat trick. Gavin. Here's the thing. St. Louis was leading for like 65, 70 minutes. That's the most frustrating, annoying part for me. Like, how many times has St. Louis had just a short period of time where they're doing really, really well for most of the match, and then just like this small span, like you could take this part, segment it, this 10 to 20 minute segment of the match, take that out, and they otherwise had a great match.
I think that's most of their games, in all honesty. I think you've described their season, right?
Yeah, they've played 7. They've won 1 time. They've got 4 draws. I mean, they've played 6. The math wasn't mathing when I said 4 and 1 win, 4 draws and a win. I was like, wait a second.
That don't make no sense.
Yeah, I was like, they can't have 6 points in 7 matches played. That's ridiculous.
I mean, I don't think it's a terrible thing to lose away to RSL. I think it's just maybe what you're saying is the fashion that they've lost, because they were leading, and then they threw it all away. I think that's the most frustrating part. How much do you think, we kind of touched on it, well, maybe let's start there first. The controversy of the weekend, really, is it a red card? That's the question a lot of people are asking.
If the other one's a red card, this is a red card.
But in the same instance, if this isn't a red card, the other one isn't a red card, right?
Right.
So which one's your control?
Ooh.
Your baseline. Which one's your baseline? They're very similar.
I think I have to err on the side of don't hit other players off the ball. Like, this is a physical sport, yes. But it's if you're going like shoulder to shoulder with someone or you're trying to compete for the ball, then that's a normal, natural play for me. If you're gonna throw hands at someone off the ball, like if you're gonna bump shoulders off the ball, whatever. Like that's again, it happens. You're gonna jostle for position. This isn't jostling for position. So I think I would say I err towards the side of this should be no bueno. But
this is similar to what we talked about a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, it's so judgmental. Like I hate this because there's one on either side. There's no consistency.
No. Yeah, so but remember what we talked about a few weeks ago when I said like I can't stand that retaliation usually ends in red cards. I land on no red card here. This is a perfect scenario. For me, this is jostling for position. And he gets in front of someone and he's getting grabbed. And so he's like, get off me. Like, he's like, at the heat of the moment, frustrating game. They're losing at home. They haven't really created too much opportunity. And so he's running in on a corner and he's getting grabbed from the back. And he's like, get off. Ends up hitting him in the chest. Like, for me, I'm fine with that not being a red card.
Yeah.
He's not... It's not overhand. It's more like a get off, like push off. I mean, we see pushes in games all the time.
We sure do.
You just can't have your fist closed, right?
Yeah.
And so it kind of looks like his fist is either closed or kind of like somewhat
the optics
arched. The optics are bad.
If it was any other part, if this is a forearm, no one's having this discussion.
Yeah. And he swings across his body. And I don't know, I can't remember if he was literally being held on the arm, so he had to, or could he have just been like, get off me, like with his left arm?
Right. Conversely, maybe you just go down and you draw a yellow card.
Yeah, and a penalty. But, so for me, I stand on no penalty on the incident. Then my question was going to be, do you think that impacted St. Louis to where they felt aggrieved and that impacted the way they closed out the match? Because, I mean, the same player who they felt should have had a red scores a few minutes later.
I'm sure they felt aggrieved. Like, no doubt in my mind. You can say, like, oh, all your Ted Lassoisms. You can say, oh, I have a memory of a goldfish. Like, yeah, something bad happened. Forget about it. Play the match. Focus on the here and the now. I think largely most people don't work that way. It's still going to be there in the back of your mind. Good, bad.
I mean, I can give a story of there was one game where
you went in studs up on someone's ankle and you got...
No. But I was the one in front of goal, and I rounded the keeper, and I was about to pass the ball in the net, and I got rugby tackled, essentially. Just dove to stop me from scoring.
Okay.
And the ref gave him a yellow card.
Did you get a penalty?
We did get a penalty. I scored the penalty. We went 2-1 up. And the same player who rugby tackled me went on to score 2 goals, and they won the game 3-2. Wow. And
be better.
Part of that was the frustration from the coach and the team that there wasn't a red card given.
I wonder if the referee misunderstood what double jeopardy is.
Probably. But it does. It plays into your mindset where you're almost out to get retribution instead of to like focus on the game itself. And if you even just lose focus for those 2 milliseconds, Chicho Rongo's gonna spin on the ball and drop it bottom right corner.
Yep, 100%. Gavin, you had the real life example, and I have the non-real life example, the Ted Lassoism example.
Yes, there you go.
Good teamwork, Gavin. Truly.
You had the social example.
Yeah, good. It takes a village. All right, Gavin, I would like to talk one other question before we move on. How do we feel on Mastroeni? He won this, but for large stretches of the match, and I even remember specifically in this match, one of our wonderful MLS Now community members even posted, I think prior to the goals, #Pablo out. I don't want to overread and over-index a hat trick from a player as to whether or not a coach is overperforming or, underperforming. Granted, Salt Lake are in third place in the West, but like it doesn't feel like they're in third place in the West, if that makes sense. This feels like the elephant in the tree. Like no one knows how it's there, but we know where it's going to end up.
Yeah, it feels like the early season third place in the West, where you just haven't played enough games yet to fully see the whole team. Yeah. Look, Pablo's fine for me personally. I like him as a head coach. I think he's done a good job with RSL. They are consistently making the playoffs under him. They're consistently also pushing for those like home playoff spots under him. In my opinion, they were playing some of the best soccer in the league down the stretch last season. In the middle of the season. There was like a solid 6 to 8 week spell where RSL were playing amazing soccer. Just amazing soccer.
That. We were bought in on it. We were all about
it. I was all in.
Yeah,
right?
We were like, Pablo is turning the corner. RSL's dangerous. They look amazing. Leagues Cup rolled around. They fell off a cliff.
And then what happened? Yeah. And you want to know why? They lost a key player in Pablo Ruiz that helps that system gel to injury. They lost him for the season. And then they start the season again. They lose him again. I think he's out long term. He may be out for the season again. And if not, it's a while. So like they're missing that player, and they need to get somebody in who can replicate what he can do in some sort of way, or, bring a different aspect that ticks lots of boxes for this team and gets them playing that way again. They've been fine this season. Like you said, third in the West. They're just overall a team that grinds out results. They work hard. They do have a star in Chicho Arango. I think they'll be fine. But they're missing a few key pieces to really take that next step and actually be a third place team that we sit there and say, yeah, this team's a threat.
Yeah. Gavin, I agree with you fully on this one. But I am ready to go on Fraud Watch at a moment's notice. So.
Oh my gosh. I know. All right. Who's next?
Gavin, well, I would like to say we have next Vancouver versus Portland. And let me just start by saying, as a lifelong Vancouver fan ever since 2023, I have enjoyed this match with immense gusto, great satisfaction, a little bit of stress, a lot of stress, in fairness, and then catharsis at the third goal. It was a 3-2 win for Vancouver. They suffered from the symptom of having at one point the most dangerous lead in the sport, which is a 2-0 lead, promptly threw that away to go to a draw, and then from the jaws of a draw, snatched a very, very ugly win off what looked like a spilled ball in the box from the keeper on Portland, who was like, holding his hand up, like looking shocked, perplexed even that it wasn't offside or like a foul, or like looking for literally any excuse why this goal could be ruled off other than him dropping the ball. Point being, I had great fun with this match, Gavin. I'm very, very happy about it. Vanni Sartini is back. And it shows.
Hell yeah, dude. Yeah, classic Cascadian match in MLS. Some of my favorite matchups. Yeah, Evander, I'm going to start with Portland.
Yeah, please do.
Evander in the second half was doing everything he could to get Portland back in the match. Obviously,
Yeah.
he scores the first goal to get it to 2-1. And then, he's the one who creates the equalizer with a perfect, dropped it right on a platter ball into the box for, I can't remember who scored the goal. Felipe Mora to score the goal.
Yep.
Shoot, I could have scored the goal. Anyone could have scored the goal. It was such a perfect ball. So, yeah, props to him. He really was pulling all the strings. And, when it got to 2-2, I don't know if you felt this, but there was no way that match was ending 2-2. Either one of those teams could have scored a goal in that moment.
I was convinced, Gavin, that it would be Vancouver.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So after being pegged back to 2-2, you were convinced it was going to be Vancouver?
It was blind optimism and just trying to will the dotted line.
Yes.
I had no rational basis for it. Yes. Zero rational basis. Yes, it worked extremely well. Late heroics. McCarthy, absolute fraud move there at the end. He spills the ball, and you cannot tell me otherwise. You could not present any footage that otherwise says anything because it fits my narrative, and that's just how I want to remember the match. I was very happy about it. I had a lot of fun. I mean, this was a legitimately fun match, Gavin.
Yeah, I'm sitting there between 80 and 84 minutes, and I'm sitting there going, who's going to score? Like, this match is not ending 2-2, so who's it going to be? I'm like, well, it could be Vancouver. They're the home team, and they're kind of dominating the play right now. Plus, Portland's going to drop off, and Vancouver's going to start to press because they're the home team, and that's just the natural way. But Portland have been clinical this half, and on the break, they could really hit Vancouver, and they had a couple chances on the break as well in that kind of time frame. And it's like, this could go either way, and it went Vancouver's way. So
it sure did.
Just really exciting. I agree. It was really fun to watch.
They sit in second place in the West. Let's stop, process that for a second, Gavin. Vancouver are in second place in the West. Normally, you would think of like LAFC, or you would think of Seattle as those are your teams, right? Like, when you think of the top teams in the West, you're probably thinking oh, I'm sure LAFC is going to be there. Seattle's there. Last year, St. Louis City's there. Vancouver Whitecaps. I really hope they continue to do well because, I mean, aside Ryan Gauld, very underrated player. I saw a survey came out. There was an athletic survey, and Ryan Gauld got mentioned as an underrated player in MLS. He's a really good player. But
I've always really enjoyed him. Yep.
Yeah, but there's other equally good players in Vancouver. You have Brian White. You have Damir Kreilach now. They're building a team that isn't just, well, I shouldn't say they're building a team when then say Brian White in that, because Brian White's been there for a while. They're adding pieces to the team, namely in Damir Kreilach, where it's Gauld doesn't have to do it all. And I think that's really going to benefit his game this season.
And look, I mean, Brian White wasn't available in this match, so they were able to call on an experienced player like Damir Kreilach. Did he have the greatest game? No. I think he was a little isolated at times. But they were able to get a player up there who's played in this league for years and years and years, scored lots and lots of goals. They were fine. They've got players like Sam Adekupe on the bench. This is a strong team. I don't see any reason why we would see them falter and start to tumble down the table to 10th, 11th, 12th. I think they're here to stay in these kind of 2 to 5 range, unless something drastic happens where they get lots and lots of injuries. They've just got a really good system. They've got really good players. They're all playing at a good level right now. And the margins are going their way.
The margins are going their way. I actually had to double check real quick because Fafa Picault did score in this match. And we had talked about how he only ever scores against teams he used to play for. He did not ever play for the Portland Timbers. So
that curse is broken.
Yeah.
Yep.
Broke the curse. Raposo scored as well, which Raposo is, Gavin, I like Vancouver. They're my honorary second team. If I wasn't a Cincinnati fan, I would be a Vancouver fan. And
I
they
put
look
out
good
I
this
put
year.
out a tweet on Raposo. He's already surpassed his goal assist tally from last season. I think he's on
Perfect.
3 already, and last season he had 2. So
Love it.
he's had a great start to the season, and that's exactly what you need if you're gonna challenge for silverware. Is you need those lower down the roster guys to really step up and impact your team.
Yep. All right, Gavin, I'm gonna move us on. We have 2 matches left. Gavin, I'm not gonna call this fraud watch. For the record, I'm going to say this is the Harvey Dent Two-Face syndrome. Has Schmetzer officially entered the point where he could have either died a hero, but he is now living long enough to see himself become the villain?
Yeah, lots of frustration with Schmetzer.
Yeah.
Lots of frustration with Schmetzer. And can you blame them? It's been a terrible start to the season.
Not only can I not blame them, Gavin, Seattle are in last place. But second to last place in the Supporter Shield. Last place in the West. 2 points, Gavin. 2 points. That is unbelievable. If you think back to the history of Seattle, the heights that they saw under Schmetzer, now here we are.
Yeah.
I think we've talked about it before. I think it's a day late and a dollar short in terms of when the rebuild had to start. I think they've held on to some players longer than they should have held on to them. I think they've extended some players who maybe didn't necessarily need to be extended. You're hitting the valleys all in one go. I mean, Jordan Morris is a streaky player. Mr. Speed and Power has had some really good stints. He's had some really good flashes. Right now, he's in a valley. Raul Ruidiaz is in the valley of his career right now. Pedro de la Vega is injured. He's not even in the conversation at the moment. One of the Roldan brothers, valley of the career right now, shifting towards, being more niche, doesn't necessarily, I think, fit the system as much. So many players, I think, are underperforming, and you can say that that's an issue at a player level and not a Schmetzer level, but I don't know. I think when it comes to the future of a team, someone like Schmetzer, who I believe has quite an amount of say in the direction of the team, needs to have some of the responsibility here.
Absolutely. Yep. They're kind of in that same rut, right, that we talked about with Nashville. It's that rut of afraid of change. And it didn't need to be Schmetzer to change, but did they need to give Ruidiaz that new contract? That was a very controversial thing at the time. There was a lot of surprise when there were rumors that he was going to leave. Oh my gosh, Ruidiaz is going to leave. What is Seattle going to do? It would have been better for him to leave at that time. I think there were rumors of him going to maybe even RSL. But I remember there were rumors of him going somewhere. But those rumors don't come out of nowhere, right?
Someone
Contracts
would
ending.
have signed him.
Someone would have signed him, but someone inside the club, probably identified that we shouldn't keep this guy. And maybe it was, someone lower level in the decision-making process. Maybe it was like an assistant GM or something, or maybe even a scout or some sort of analyst that helps them with decision-making, called out that, hey, this guy, he's on the downward trend. We should refresh, renew, and get a new face in. And then you go up the levels of leadership, and they start having those higher level conversations about, shirt sales, experience, locker room presence, all the kind of soft factors. And you keep him. Now you're relying on him a few seasons later, and he cannot contribute that much. Now they're bottom of the table.
No. You hate to see it. You know what you love to see, though, Gavin? Ricky Pooge continues to be just a joy to watch. But we waxed lyrical about him last time. I'm not going to wax lyrical about him too much this time. Pooj continues to be in your highlights. He continues to be in your big chances. He makes the Galaxy offense work. Just flat out. Now, all of these things are great in isolation. Gavin, the people who watched this match, the people who attended this match, will all point out one huge, enormous mitigating factor. That field had the entire water supply of California dumped onto the field and left there. And so I do want to have this enormous caveat. Now that we've talked about how the sky is falling and the players weren't doing well, and it's this 1-0 win where it's like no one took their chances. Every single step may as well have been a zoomed in view of when a water droplet hits a lake and you see all the water flying up in slow motion. It was like that on every single step, every single bounce of the ball, every single shot. There were times when the ball almost came to a standstill on a pass. Terrible, awful match to read into in terms of any sort of performance, because you could tell players were getting into positions they should be in, where in a normal match they probably would have buried that ball, but it took a weird bounce, it hopped up, it took a spin, so you can only read so much into this. That's my caveat to this match.
Yeah, agreed. It was so bad.
I
wife
left
was
a
like,
note to bring this up at the end after we had built up this match.
Yeah, smart. My wife was like, "Is that safe to play on?" I was like, kind of not. It's kind of not. There could be some slips and some
there were
some bad
slips. Yep.
ankle twists or something. So
Yep.
not the best. So yeah, is what it is. But I mean, it didn't. I don't think it stopped. Ricky Pooj from dictating play in the midfield.
Right.
It didn't stop
the required cheeky little no look back heel, as nearly was a goal. Was not a goal, but
yep. And it didn't stop Seattle from creating. They still created some chances.
They did. I think on a dry day, Jordan Morris probably buries the chance that he has in front of goal.
You'd hope so.
Yes. You would. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because he has a track record of having buried those before. The rain plays a factor in this. I don't think it invalidates some of our discussion about their problems before. The rain does play a factor into it.
Yep. All right, last match.
It was a blast to be at, for the record.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, last match.
Gavin, you're pushing me. It's almost like we've been recording for an hour and 48 minutes at this point, Gavin. And it's like
I'm just
trying
excited
to get out of here. You don't want to be on the call with me. You're like, I ignored him at 4 o'clock today. I don't want to be on the phone with 2 hours for him.
I was excited because we had two correspondence corners going against each other.
We did.
So which one do you want to read?
You take Bryce. I would like for you to do a smug Northeastern accent, and I will do Tim, as we are both Midwesterners, and I feel like I can adequately represent his tone and thought process.
Okay. I'll go first. Bryce for Atlanta. We won at home comfortably. Do you see a theme here? Jamal Tiare is the biggest takeaway from this. We haven't had a clear backup number 9 since Brandon Vazquez behind Josef Martinez, and he finally netted a brace for Atlanta United. Tiare would be big for Atlanta's success to take pressure off Giacomakis, especially if he needs to cover international time for Greece. Saba covered a lot of ground and was impressive this weekend as well.
Bryce, when did you get on the podcast? So happy to have you on here.
Actually, Bryce texted us while we've been recording and said he wants to join next week's recording.
Oh my gosh.
So we'll get him on. So
he could have been on this one. He could have joined partway through. We've been going long enough.
Yeah, he really could have. I did see a bit of this match. Or actually, I saw most of this match. I shouldn't even say a bit of this match.
Oh, Oh my gosh, we're getting revisionist history here, Gavin.
Atlanta were the only team in this game. I think they had like 15 plus shots by halftime. I mean, they were just all over Chicago, all over them. It was only 1-0. Like Chicago were managing, but Atlanta were all over them, getting off shots. I feel like if Atlanta had contributed one more attacker and been a little bit more aggressive, this game could have really gotten out of hand instead of like a late 3-0, which is what it ended up being. So
I have a question for you before we talk about Tim's correspondent corner.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about Gonzalo Pineda a couple times. We've talked about Gonzalo Pineda.
No. We, as in yes.
Oh, okay. We've talked about Gonzalo Pineda a couple times.
See.
Yes. Gavin, is this Gonzalo Pineda tactics working, or is it Chicago's mandatory dreadful match multiple times every season? Like, where does this match fall? Like, was this Atlanta being good tactically, or was it Chicago being bad?
I'm high on Atlanta this year. I'm really high on Atlanta. I think they have the players to,
I agree.
Really
they
go far
players
this season. They've got really
coach.
I get it. I'm with you. I'm there. We had this discussion. They have killers. They have killers in the box.
Oh my gosh.
Cold-blooded killers. Cold-blooded killers in the box. Giacomakis, I mean, I put money on him anytime goal scorer because it was just bound to happen against Chicago. It was going to happen. And he delivered.
Born in Atlanta. I feel like I'm offended now that you said Atlanta's got cold-blooded killers.
In the box on the soccer field. Let me clarify. No, I put it more towards Atlanta just being better. Like, they won all their individual duels. They were, quicker than Chicago. They were stronger than Chicago. It wasn't a competition, unfortunately.
I've counted on my hand here, Gavin. 1, 2, 3. They won all their duels. They were quicker. They were stronger. None of those are coaching, for the record. That's just the players performing.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So the jury remains out is really what I'm hearing here.
On Pineda?
Yeah. I still don't know what to think of him.
Oh, I don't think he's great.
Okay.
I don't think he's great. But I think that they have the players to make it not matter.
Okay. All right. That's a bold take.
I don't think it is. Because here's the thing. Yes, coaching is very, very important. I get that. But at the end of the day, the players still have to go out and do the work. And
that's true.
And if you're stronger, if you're faster, if you're
Harder,
more
better,
clinical
faster,
in the box, all the things. If you have a creative threat like Thiago Almada, if you have a midfielder like Moyomba who's willing to run around the pitch and clean everything up, like, sometimes simple tactics with a better group of players will get you to where you need to go. Like, you don't have to have some elaborate scheme where, you find the one weakness and you make this one small tweak and you exploit that weakness and you win the game 1-0 to go top of the league. Like, yeah, obviously that'd be wonderful. Or you could just have the best players and just go and smash everybody. I don't think they're going to be first. Let me just say that. I don't think they're going to finish first in the East, but I think they're going to be up there.
Okay. Well, if the players can work it, and if they can make it, and if they can do it, Gavin, that'll make them top team.
Yep. What's Tim got to say?
I can't believe you missed that reference. So disappointed in you, Gavin. Can't believe you're not up to date on your Daft Punk memes.
I don't listen to Daft Punk, so
you're lost, Gavin. You're lost. All right, hey, what Tim's got to say here, and I'll say this in my truest Midwestern accent that really actually just sounds a lot like me. With a 3-0 loss in Atlanta that never felt like the Fire particularly had intentions on Brad Guzan's goal, head coach Frank Klopas's points per game average. Tim's channeling my inner thoughts. I love statistics. I love Tim for bringing that up. Frank Klopas's points per game average in his current tenure of 30 games is now below that of his predecessor, Ezra Hendrickson. More than the lack of results against mostly top of the table Eastern Conference opponents, though, it's the lack of chance creation that is concerning. The Fire have a chance to turn things around with 4 of the next 5 matches at home, but if not, it could start to feel late, real early for this Chicago team. Gavin, I put money on Chicago every single week because I think they're going to figure it out. And they haven't.
This was my lock of the week, Atlanta being Chicago. I actually at 2-2 in the Vancouver-Portland match, I put a Vancouver-Atlanta parlay down. Because I was like, Atlanta's a lock, so if Vancouver get a goal here, then like I'm sitting pretty. And I was sitting pretty.
I had a Chicago money line.
Oof.
Combined with a Vancouver money line.
Are you Chicago away against Atlanta?
I had
what are you
faith
doing
in Chicago, Gavin. I was like, there's no way. Like, they have been so not good this season. And I believed in Kellen Acosta's signing. I believed in the Hugo Kuiper's signing. And I was like, they're gonna make it work. They didn't make it work.
You are wild for that one, my friend.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild.
Money thrown away, but nah. It is what it is, you know. Charlotte first team to score, as well as some live betting on what's their faces. Colorado really helped cover my losses for the weekend.
I had a great weekend. Not on our on ours. I lost mine.
Right. As did I.
Yes. I think you and I had 2 of the same 3.
Yeah.
And I think both of them were wrong.
That's par for the course for us, which is why, Gavin, in this next segment, it's no longer the MLS Now, crystal ball betting picks. This is the anti-betting picks now, Gavin. We are so bad at this. We're going to tell people listening what not to pick. So, Gavin, my what not to pick picks of the week definitely do not take Atlanta United over NYCFC. Absolutely under no circumstances should you be picking Charlotte over New England. And like, if all else fails and you think to yourself, Philly over Nashville seems a sure thing, guess again. Don't take that either. And if you were to combine all of those together and you were to see that it was plus 28-29 odds, definitely don't lock in those 3 legs. Not a chance.
Absolutely not.
No, all of those are wrong based on our track record.
So don't.
Or at least 2 of those 3 are wrong based on our track record.
I'm with you with the Charlotte. So I've got that one. I have them
wrong then.
Yeah, confirmed wrong if we both have them. Just because, Champions Cup week, New England's in Champions Cup. New England have been dreadful in MLS play as is. St. Louis over Dallas.
Huge fraud. Oh, we didn't even talk about that. Is Caleb Porter on fraud watch?
Oh my God. Yes. Get out of here. Get out of here, bro. Get out of here. Okay. St. Louis over Dallas. If that doesn't hit, I don't know. I'm dead.
I would hope not, Gavin. Never bet more than you can afford to lose, just for the record.
Yes. That's my lock,
betting advice.
That's my lock.
Obviously wrong.
Yep. And tie or DC United. Double chance on DC United away to Columbus.
Oh, absolutely not. 0 chance. They have a chance. A Columbus win.
They got Tigres tomorrow.
I don't know what to tell you.
And they're away to Tigres, so they're going to be rotating. I'm telling you, this is not going to be...
And I respect you for it. But that's Gavin, we're terrible at this, and it's going to be
Yes. I forgot about that. Right. So that's a Columbus win all day long. So you're
Yeah,
welcome, our
100%.
Columbus fans. Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm feeling pretty not confident.
I have 100% confidence in losing $5 that I put on this
Yes.
hypothetical 3-leg pick, which I would never bet money on because, Gavin, these are the anti-picks. They're guaranteed to be wrong.
Yeah.
So
I was
the result on if you bet $5 on that is you lose $5.
I'm at a plus 1161.
The odds are insane. This is a bad week for betting, for the record. I did put in. Let me look at my open bets here because I did put some in just to get a feel for where I was gonna be position wise on the week, and I've got, I believe, 5. Yeah, I've got 5 different bets across the spectrum of either some 2 legs. I've got some double chances, and there's really there's a lot of 50-50 matchups. Truthfully, I mean, I don't envy people who are trying to identify good bets this week because it's a lot of things that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
Some great odds out there. FC Cincinnati has positive odds at home.
I'm really leaning on the CONCACAF Champions Cup clubs to lose.
Well, I mean, but you're gonna be wrong, so that's that.
So that'd be New England, Columbus. Who's the other one? Oh, Miami.
Mm.
I didn't go against Miami, but that would be my other one. I think they're home against Colorado. Well, Nick said it, against Colorado. Yeah.
That's right.
Yep. Cool. All right. Another long one.
Another long. Gavin, they're always long. They're getting longer every week too.
And we're missing a lot of key talking points as well.
We really are, Gavin. You know,
we'll have to do that next week.
I think the important thing here is, I said 7 people are still listening to the end of this episode. To the listeners, thank you very much for sticking with us through some of these podcasts. We really appreciate everyone who continues to listen to the podcast, the people who tune in regularly. We have a wonderfully consistent listener base, and we appreciate every single one of you who continue to keep us motivated to put this out. So to everyone who has made it this far to the end of the podcast, thank you very much. We appreciate your continued support in this. And behind that, I, of course, appreciate Gavin's continued participation in these extremely long recordings, which you can find Gavin on social media at Lions Blog One. You can find the podcast on social media at MLS Now Podcast. You can find me on social media at Mr. Danger Russ. Gavin, till next time.
Till next time.